Hello everybody. In this video, we're going to finish our series about connecting the API at the front end for the directory app. I will not do everything that I was thinking doing in the beginning, but I think laying out the first part or the beginning should be more than enough to understand that the rest just is pretty much the same with a little more the follow-ups. In our last video, we finished doing our API. We created the employees endpoint, and we did the page size, and we did the headers in order to understand how many records do we have and how many pages we have in that record depending the size that we're consuming at the moment. We are going to build, or we're going to continue to build our directory app on top of that particular API. But before we actually go to the view side, we need to do the last changes in the Node.js backend. And those are actually really simple. They are not that big of a deal. One of those changes is, let's go to our source directory, the main index, where we have actually the application layout. It actually could be called main actually. Well, I will keep it as an index. And we're going to be doing two different changes here. One, we're going to add another element to our course in order to make it the cross origin section. And that one is called expose headers. Of course, when another server, another application that is hosted in somewhere else, try to make the call and it's actually be able to do it because we accepted the origin, only the basic headers will be the one that are being exposed. In this case, it will do to the Thunder client, and let's do the basic employees endpoint. Let's go to the headers. We can actually have a bunch of headers that we need to define which one are going to be. Not all of these are being rendered and to the front end. We can see them here because we're using a REST client, but when we use a hosted app like your Vue.js, not everything will be there, just a couple of them. One of the things that we need to do, we need to expose, of course, the total count and the total pages, and that's what we're doing right now. So we expose header, we just define an array, and we just do x total count, that's how we call it, and x total pages. We save it. That will be one of the two changes that we need to do. The other change is for the basic authentication. We need to actually get it away from here. And we need to open our API index on the source root API, the index file. And let me put this on the right. We need to be importing that basic. Let's actually import it through here. And then I'm going to get this one from here. And just, we can actually put it right here before the API endpoint. And instead of doing app will be the router. What we're telling here through our API is pretty much like all the endpoints are not protected. Only the API one are the one protected. I need to be like that in order to make it work through protection through course. Because when we had it over here, when it would try to use it in an application, it will start failing the course authentication because we have the authentication on top of everything. Remember that this actually is sequential. So every section is actually used. So we just limit the authentication to be part of the router itself. After that, we just need to deploy, save it, and push it, and it will be automatically deployed in our Coolify. And let me open my Coolify console, directory API. I actually did several testing, you will see. And whenever you push it, you should be able to go to the build, and you should be able to see the build being created right here. This is the last one that I had. And when it actually finishes and success, you will see that it's particularly working. If we go to the application side, I think, yes, we can actually see the logs and we can see all the calls that we're actually making and the different areas that we are specifying. And I will show you how yes, we will call the department soon, but that will be in a minute. Okay, so let me close this. So after you do that, it is time to actually work on our Vue.js app. And the idea to the Vue.js app, we need to do several elements first. First of all, actually, let's just remember what we have. So let me just do a simple npm run dev and doing it on another screen. And we have our application running in a local host. So what I will be doing, I will be getting the name, position, the department, and the quote from the API. We didn't need the picture, so we'll keep the picture from Faker. All the rest of the information will be bringing from the API itself. We will limit probably to 4 or maybe 8 elements only. And we will make the pagination to work properly. And I think that should be it for now. My original idea is to have like a personal page. It will take too much time to move forward and have like another page where we can actually save information. But I think it will be a longer video and the time is precious right now. I want to use to pull all that data and make the pagination work properly. Well, the total page is the one that will do render over here. And whenever we change page, it will be loading again. We will make a call to the employees in a specific site. And because of that, and let me just open my Thunder client again. We need to make a second call, one per employee, to the department in order to get the department ID. So let me just change this one. Let me do employees. Let me rename this employees. And I have a new request. And copy this, paste it to here. And let's do departments. Let's actually do the basic authentication. We have 2 different departments in this particular case. So the idea will be get all the employees, probably keeping a size at 8, and then one by one go to the department ID, make a call to the department in order to get a name. And that will be it. That will be the process that we'll be using. And I will showcase how to load that information in Vue.js, how to make it work. So let's get started. Let me see. This is the departments. Let's rename these departments. And let's rename this department by ID. There you go. It will be a little simpler to find it now. Cool. So let's start in our EMP file. And probably you saw that just pop it up. I have a protection right now. I will create 3 different new environmental variables. Will be the API URL, the API username, and the API password. We need to keep those 3 elements in order to make our application know what we need to do there. Now, let me just toggle out. Sorry. Auto hide, cloaking. Let me remove those. So we have the traditional Firebase keys, and we have the API So let me take this tree. And right now I'm pointing to my production server. I will not host the test server. Usually that should be the way. But I will be pointing directly because we're using only one database. Let me open my console. I will go to my view directory, go to secrets, and I will be adding those two new ones. Those three are being created here. Let me just make it enable through the build time. And just in case, let me just put this. I think it's not necessarily enough for all of them, but just to be safe, start and end with the quotes. Set, set, and set. So we change those three. Cool. So that will be everything for now. And let's go configuration, and we'll leave it like that. I forgot to mention our application is running right here. So let's start making the call and let's see how things are working. One of the things that we need to solve is we're making the call to V8. You can see that we will have 14 pages. And those are the 14 pages that we should be rendered in our navigation on the bottom. So the first thing, we just have a settings change. It was, oh, the clocking thing, forgot all that. So the first thing that I want to do, I want to go to the source composables and we'll create a new one called use API. And let's start working with our API itself. What I want to be doing here will be, and I'm checking my notes in order to try to make this a little bit faster. We'll simple import ref from view, right? Let's open the terminal. We need to install Axios, npm install Axios. So let me delete the terminal. And we need to import it. Import Axios from Axios. One of the first thing, we need to have const employees. Will be the employees always, that will be showing, will be a reference of an empty value, an empty array. Let's do const pages equal reference, and let's by default get the page, only one page. Yes, I like that. Let's do the loading as false by default. Let's do active page equal reference by 1 by default. It will be the page for the pagination. And let's do a simple const page size. And let's keep a constant, or in this case a reference. And I keep it like that because it's something that probably we could use in the future to change it. But the idea will be to have something like that. And those will be exposed and will be a little bit more like our mini state that will be used across our application itself. Also, I will use my API endpoint. I will use my Axios create, and I will do something like this. So my base URL will be import.meta.env.byte API URL. We need to know where we are actually pointing to. And then because we're using basic authentication, we should be using the API username and the API password as the rest of the elements. And with that, we just created our instance of API with the name that will be consistent. after we have that, we will use cons. Let's do something really simple. Use API. And this thing, the only thing that we will be doing, it will return a bunch of elements that we already have. And export default use API. And this actually should be like this. Yes. So we need to return our employees. We need to return pages or active page. We need to return the loading stage and the page size. Do we need the page size? I don't think we need the page size. Well, we can use it there because we can actually change it later if we need it. We will not be doing that in this video. So let's actually export all those. So we remove those errors that I had there. And for that, let's do cons get employees. Will be in a synchronous call, where first we need to do our loading stage to be true. We actually start making the call. And then we should be doing something similar to that, but instead of data, let's actually use the response, complete response. We can use data headers, probably. I want to export the data and I want to export the header because I need to read the X total pages. Our API will be get request to the API URL that we have, that is our production API, and will be to our endpoint API / employees. Let's close this for now. And we'll put the rest of the elements right here. One of the things is our parameters that we need to define. And we need to remember the way that we actually do the parameters in the client. We need to send the page and the size. So let's do that. The first one will be page. That will be the active page where we actually locate it. That's why we have by default 1. So the first time that we make the call, we'll get the first page. That's it. And the size will be the page size value. And we're defined at 8. We can actually change that in order to have a new page value somewhere else. Cool. After we call that, we can actually do our employees data. Actually, our employees value will be equal to data. And didn't like it. Why didn't like it? Oops. I'm inside the... We're not supposed to be. I'm missing closing this over here. And this should be right here. Sorry. Yes. So employees value, it will be equals data. Or pages value will be my headers X total pages, the one that we actually getting. But because this is actually a number, we need to change this to a number. So let's parse it. And if this is some kind of error or whatever, let's just get pages 1 as if like an OR statement. So we're saying change to number, whatever string that is coming with this header, or a 1. And at the end, we need to return our loading value to false. And then we do a get employees and the return statement. Now, we know that the employee size, it doesn't require anything in order to make the call because we have parameterized the rest of the element. But we have a call that we will need here. Will be const get department in singular, and will be asynchronous also. It will take the department ID. Let's actually call this department ID, and it will be as simple as get API departments for that particular department ID, and we just return that particular data. That's it. And then that get department function, it will be sent it back to the client through here. So this is our API endpoint so far. We just need to get employees, we just need to get department, and we parameterize in a reactive way the rest of the elements. We need, right? In order to make use of this, and let's save everything, added Axios and use API. I will not sync it yet. Let's go through our application view. We need to remember that we're getting the router view, and the router view will actually render our main page. So let's actually go to our main page component. We can get the composable down. So the main page component, what I want to do there, I actually want to make the call. I would like just to pull everything through here, and then the different element, in this case the main cards and the main pagination, will be use the elements for that particular call I will be creating. So whenever this actually get mounted, what I want to do there is actually want to call the get employees. And making the call to the get employees will define what the information it will be pulled. So let's actually do here simple import reference. Actually, no, it will be unmounted from view. Right. Oh, and I have an issue about the sizings. Yeah, so let me go this one over here probably. Let me see if I can deactivate it or not. No, I will keep it like that for now. Forget about those error statements. Let me try to fix those right away. I think what I need to do here, I need to do a couple of changes. Let me think, give me a second, I'm looking at my notes. And remember, I will have issue with those ESLint parameters. One of the things that I need to install, development, I do npm install as development. I need to install, will be at view ESLint config creator, and also I think will be the other one will be the add rush tag dash ESLint patch. And what other one? And I think that's it. The other one we already had it. So let me install those two. Let me delete it. And I will go and open. I will delete my preader file. I don't need it. And I will open my ESLint. And I will change element for my ESLint itself. So one of the things that I need to change here, let me see if I get this correct. So yes, we're getting the modern model resolution. True extends plugin view 3 recommended. Cool. ESLint recommended. Yes. And this one will change for the one that we just installed. Will be instead of preader itself, will be view ESLint config preader. we're going to remove the pre plugin. We'll keep the parse option to latest ECMA version. And the rules, we'll keep the one over here, but we need to add comma and an object. And we'll be doing as simple as single quote, true, and the other one I think semi false. That should be more than enough. And I need to remove this formatting over here, I think. What else? Oh, our VS Code. Inside our VS Code folder, order settings, I'm pretty much removing all the settings there. I don't need to have anything custom. And there you go. I have this. Let me save this. Perfect. So everything just get saved as it is. Let me just add my ESLint, my printer, my package log, and my package JSON, and my settings, and I will be fixed linting. Cool. And let's continue working the main page. I'm not committing this one because I'm not done yet. So unmounted, I will be pushing something, but also I will be verifying. I need to be importing. Import from composables, use API. We need to actually import the use API. And actually this one should be true here. And what I'm going to be doing at the end is a simple. Actually, we can actually put this one. I like to keep a little separation on my imports in order to understand what I'm doing. In this case, I think this makes sense. And let's do count. I will just get employees and my loading stage. Loading from my use API function that I just imported. And what I will doing is as simple as unmounted. This unmounted will be asynchronous. And I will do await get employees. That will be it. I think that should be more than enough. That we will make it, just make the call and verify that we actually put in the information. All this wrapper, what I want to do here, I want to have a simple paragraph, and let's keep it really, really simple. That it says loading. And this will appear only our loading stage is true. And whenever we finish, we just do a simple else for the rest. This is a way to handle asynchronous information. We are using the unmounted function, and we're just keeping the control here that need to be rendered in this particular case, where we'll be loading and when we will be loading the other rest, depending for specific data. So we're just getting the function to get employees and the loading state by itself. So saving that, we should be able to see something. Let me go and open my API. Okay, let me see my inspect. I should be able to go here, main page. Okay, we see the loading stage is false because we're using it. We can actually see it through our view console. If I refresh this, the data will say still be random because I'm not putting the data yet from the database, from the API. But you will see for a minute loading here and loading here, true. And when this changes to false, all of these elements will appear. Let me see if you can actually see that. Loading and then appears. How cool is that? Let me change this true, that will be the status. And whenever this changes to false, that data will be actually created. Let me refresh, loading, and everything is there. Of course, we can have like a better loading, like a full page spinning or something like that. But that, I think that's enough for now to verify or to see that it's doing what it's supposed to. Okay. Cool. So we see that it's actually working. Or get employees endpoint itself. And we're making the call, and whenever the call is finished, it loads everything. Now let's tie it up. Let's tie it up with a different element. I think the one that we need to do here is on the main cards in plural, and then I want to send the employee data to that particular card in specific. So let me go to Visual Studio Code. Let's do this. Main page get employees. Cool. Let's go to main cards in plural, where we actually call the single card and we repeat it 20 times. It will be a little bit different over here. So one of the first things we're going to be using, we need to import or use API. And from that, we need to extract our employees data. Because what I want to do here, instead of doing n in 20, I will do for every employee in employees. Where employee dot, I think we call it employee ID. I remember. Let's actually do the whole employee as a key. And let's save it. And let's see how it goes. Let's refresh. We're getting 2, 4. We have actually getting 8, 10 instead of 8. What is the size that we're actually making the call? Let's go to the use API. Page size is 8. Okay, it makes sense. And then we're telling for every employee in employees with that particular key. It makes sense. So let's do a simple inspect, go to view, and we should be able in our main page, let's open to the main cards, and we have the employees endpoint here. And we have 10 elements. Why do we have 10 elements? So we can actually see that we're pulling Bernadette as employee number 1 and Jared as the second one. So it's actually making the call, and our employees is actually pull it, but probably we are making the call a little bit wrong. Let me see what I have in the use API. Oh, yes, here. I'm sending the parameter as page size, but in reality, let's go to employee. The name of the parameter should be size, not page size. So it's actually pulling 10 because 10 is the default for the API type. So let's go to here. Let's do size. Let's save it. Let's test it again. Refresh. Now we just have 8 employees. Perfect. It's still random because we're not pulling the real data, and we see that the employees is actually 8 elements on the array. And we're reading the data, and it's showing where it's supposed to, and it's loading it correctly. So let's add only the use API and fix it. Size parameter on use API. And let's go back to the main cards. And let me see. I don't want to keep the key the whole employee. It's just too much data per se. I think we call this data, and let me just, we can see it right here. On view, employees, let's open one. We have the employee ID, yes. So we have the employee ID. So let's actually do employee ID as the key. Perfect. The only things that I want to do here, I want to send a prop called employee. And I will send that particular employee as a prop to my single card itself. So we have that. Let's actually go to the main card singular. I will not commit yet because I want to get back to make another change. And we will do in some interesting changes over here. Let's put this here. Let's put this over here. Let's see what we can actually do. One of the things is we need to define the props that we are pulling from our data. So we need to do the import ref, and we don't need the computer, we just need the ref from view. And we need to import Nodejs API from a composable use API. And we'll be doing from here. Actually, the API will do in a minute. Let's do the other thing first. So we have the select card over there, and after the select card, I will do props equal define props. We don't need to import this because it's like a what can I call it? Like a global element. So I will use define props. The employee, that's the way that we want to call it. We want to send right here or prop as employee. And will be type object, and it requires, like we cannot call the single card without that. But also I would like to use a cool element just to understand. I like it to have for documentation purposes, like the default element. And it will make just a simple function that will return an object. Will return a particular object that will be really similar to this, but in reality, I think we can just get this data from here, and we can actually paste it. Let's do a simple comma at the end of every line. Oh. We can actually use created at, let's do, I don't know, let's do 2022 0101, something really simple. The same as updated. Let's keep it as really simple. The permanent ID, let's do 123. Employee ID, let's do 123. These are the default value. It will be overridden with the employee data that we're sending through here. So I like to keep the default element just to remember what are the different properties that this particular object or prop has. Let's use the name. Let's change this to John Doe. Let's do this to really cool quote. And title will be position. Let's save that. Perfect. And we're not being seen. Oh, let's actually do here John dot Doe at example.com, right? So we need to remember, let's get back to a Thunder client, get an employees. So our first employee is Bernadette, the second is Jared. We should be seeing Bernadette here and Jared over here. So let's make the call to there. Well, the call is actually already made. Let's just go to the single card and let's use it. I don't think we need the first name. We will keep the faker. Let's remove first name, last name, and full name. And why in keeping faker? Because the the picture need to be generated. We didn't save that in our API. I forgot completely to put it there, but that's why I just get in there. Officially, you should have like your file uploaded somewhere and then get the URL, and that will be the one that you will be rendering here. In this case, I will be using that. So whenever I click somebody, I will be using my props.employee.name. Cool. So that means if I click here, I should be, and this is failing, I can access property name, props.employee.name. Props employee is undefined. If I refresh it, Bernadette right there. And this one will be Jared. Perfect. Right. So it's actually working. The first one, we're getting Bernadette. It's not being rendered, but we can see it pulling the employee name. That the name is right there. And Jared is the second. So we see that the employee that is actually being pushed. That means that we keep the image, but instead of full name will be this one over here. We'll copy and paste it through here. We have Bernadette, Jared, Brooke, Modesto. Here we see our API. Bernadette, Jared, Brooke, and Modesto. So they are being rendering who is supposed to. Very cool. Seeing what else? The job title should change to props employee title. Perfect. The paragraph should change to quote. Yes. And now, if I refresh this, Consent Couture, Bernadette, and customer data will always be there. That's how it came from the API. Very neat, right? And yeah, the error that we have is because we're doing too many refresh too often. We're actually calling the API for the pictures too often. And we need to wait a little bit in order to make another call. So that's why sometimes it just fails. That we need to be a little more consistent. There you go. Just wait a little more seconds in order to make the call and not make it too quickly because the API troubles a little bit. So you can see that Bernadette, Jared, the same position and the same code start rendered over and over because now it's actually pulled from our API. Pretty neat. So the only things that we need to change here, we need to change two different elements. We need to change the job area. Well, that actually came from the department name. And we need to make it work properly. So in order to make that, we'll be doing something a little bit different here. We'll make another type of asynchronous call and we'll make the application to work through that. And let me show you how that actually is. Let's import our API. After we import the API, let's actually get the department element. The department will await, and we put that one right here. department response to get the data, where we actually sending the props employee department ID. And you saw that everything started failing, and we have a weird element about suspense. I will show you what that is. And what I want to do here, I just want to make my department response that is actually already came in signed as a ref element to the department. So now I can actually, instead of doing the department here, we'll be doing, instead of job area, we'll do department.name. And that will be it. But this still fails. It doesn't show. Because now we did something a little bit different how we pull asynchronous data. Without using the unmounted, where we define elements, when we did the await through the API call inside our setup, script setup, we make our component asynchronous in a different way. In order to pull it up, we should have around the parent, and this is just a component, a single card. That's why I'm going to cards in plural. We need to grab this in a suspense element. That suspense is already part of Vue.js. And what we're telling it is this element is asynchronous. You will need to be waiting to make a call in order to pull it. And something really cool about that is we can actually do a template called callback. And probably will not be able to see it because this is too fast. But we can do something like loading. So let me try to make the call. And everything is pulled right there, but we make pretty much 8 calls at the same time in order to get the department. And we can actually see technology there, most of the technology, and then finance too. Remember, the API only has two departments there, so we can see technology and finance, and those are being pulled correctly. Only the that, right? And we don't see that suspense error anymore. And Bernadette is still being the first and Jared second. With that, we should be able just to save those data and add it in employee data and department. And the last thing that I want to do, I want to work in my pagination in order to make it work correctly. So here in the pagination, what we did, we have by default pages as 10 and active page as 4, and that's why we have those through here. But instead of doing that, we'll be importing API, use API from the composable. We will not be using the reference from Vue anymore. We will not be using this anymore. And we will be doing cons. It will be, what we call it, active page. And the other one will be pages in plural. That's how we call it in the use API. Let me see. Where is my composable use API? Yes, pages and active page. Perfect. It will come from my use API function that we're importing. And that should be it. And just because of that, by default, our active page is 1. We can see it right there. And the total page is 14, as how the call does it. If we move forward, we can change the active page. Everything is still working, but we are not rendering data. We need to be able to do that. And for that, we need to import something extra from here. That will be get employees. And that will be really simple. So whenever I call, we have 3 different elements here. If I click my previous page button, I call my previous page function. If I click my next page button, I call my next page button function, sorry. And those have the logic for being disabled, when to disable those. When we're at one, we disable the previous. Whenever we're on the last one, we disable next, right? So that logic for the view, for the look and feel is already there. We just need to render the data correctly. And because we're always getting the employees, we just need to get employees with the new active page and that we have selected. And the active page changes in previous page and next page, and changes when we select a particular page itself right here. So we can actually do another one called cons jump page, call it, and we send a page number or whatever. Let's actually send it as a singular page. I think should be enough. Yes. And it will be equal something, and will be pretty much a tick page value equal page, right? And it's complaining. Why is complaining? Missing initial cons declaration. Oh, cons page equal. There you go. And this should not be here. What I'm doing. There you go. There you go. And then instead of making the change right here directly, we just make call jump page, and then the page that we selected, right? Do that. We refresh. Loading. And okay, the gate page is still working as it's supposed to. The jump page now. Changing, making the change directly to making the change in a function. And now, on top of those three elements, three functions, we can make it those asynchronous. And we can make it right here after our active page value change. We can actually do await get employees. As simple as that. So let's refresh the page. So we have the active page as one. Bernadette is there. And let me actually maximize it. So if I change to page number 2, next, Bernadette should not be there anymore. Do you see that? You saw the loading and the new names now. Percival, actually myself is here in the second element. So that will be a good position to see. So we'll page number 3. Anna and Dejan is there. If I go to previews in the second, Rodolfo, I'm there. Perfect. If I go to previews to the one, Bernadette is there. And you saw that little loading stage? That actually works if I jump to. So let me 9. And you saw that? That little loading stage is pretty neat, right? So that actually make it work the way it's supposed to. How cool is this? So with that, we just have our API working, pulling data. The second page should be Rodolfo right there. Of course, we still have the issue of those one. And I think that should be it for now. I will stop the video at this moment. Let me go to here. Push the added Pagination API. And let me sync those changes now to my repository. Because now I'm syncing my changes to my repository. If I go to my Coolify, in my directory app, go to build. I should have a new build that is actually running, and we can see it right there. We just need to wait this one to finish in order to process, and we can actually open right when it finishes. So let me just minify this and let me get it away for now. And meanwhile it's still doing that, let's explain what else we can actually do in our application. So we can actually do, whenever we click somebody, instead of right now just posting the name Rodolfo selected, right? You can see it right there, Antonia and Rodolfo. There you go. Actually open a page on a different view with the details for that particular person. After you log into the page, of course, like be able to see your data and update your data. That will be through the put REST API. Instead of API get will be API put. When you're new, will be an API post, pretty much. And the other thing is about the search. I didn't use the search functionality because I didn't put the endpoint for that. So what I want to do, what we should be doing here is we should be able in our Nodejs API get another parameter called search, and that will be the element. And now will be through Prisma doing it like a word statement where name is like whatever we actually put here, and we should be able just to pull that particular data. So it's a little more fine-grained access. But other than that, that should be more the elements that we're actually missing. And it should be not taking that much, but I don't want to use more time in reality to take them. Getting back to here, we can see that deployment just started. Is there. Of course, my passwords, URL, and username are already there. Right, let me actually see if those are correct. Yeah, probably the username. No, let's see if it actually works. Remember, those should be available during build time. And you should be pointing to the production API endpoint. Now let's actually open those. I open my directory. You saw my loading stage. Bernadette is the first one, right there. If I go to page number 2, and here, Rodolfo. I don't like that picture. Let me get back through here, and let me get back again. And there you go. Well, it's not that good either, but okay, it's okay. You see Percival is there, or API and Pagination is actually working. How cool is that? Other thing that we could actually be doing is actually set a parameter in Vue.js. And with the Vue router, depending the parameter, we can actually render and make the active page depending where we are. That will be another pretty cool thing. But yeah, I think that should be enough for now. And I really hope that you have the understanding how to pull that data and save the data. In order to make it to save, you know that you need to do a post request to your API. So whenever you have your form and you post your form, you will posting the data that you're coming from the API, from your application through the API. So I really hope that you like it. Any question, any doubt, don't hesitate to reach me. Happy coding, everybody.